Generally speaking, the shoot system is found above the soil line. Plant habits include herbaceous plants that have annual above ground parts. Then we have vines, which are weak stems that need to be supported by another plant or structure. Shrubs are woody and usually have more than one trunk, and trees are woody and usually only have one trunk, although there are multi-trunked trees such as vine maple. Herbaceous stems are soft, green, and flexible, and they only have primary growth, which means they only get tall. There's going to be no girth involved on a herbaceous stem, and these include our annuals, biennials, or perennials. Then woody stems are hard from lignin, and in addition to the primary growth, they also produce secondary growth, which means they will gain girth. They may actually go dormant in the wintertime. Shoot system is an organ system that includes stems, leaves, and flowers, and the shoot system is responsible for photosynthesis and reproduction. Stems help position leaves in sunlight so they're able to photosynthesize properly. Some stems are actually photosynthetic, such as Scotch broom. One of the reasons it's such a great weed around here. Then the vascular tissue within the stem include the xylem, which transports water, and phloem, which transports sugar. I already mentioned that it supports reproductive organs, and plant stems always have nodes and internodes. So you can see on both of these pictures, you see nodes and internodes. A node is a point of attachment where leaves, roots, and flowers will grow. An internode is the stem area between the nodes. An apical bud is the bud at the terminal position on a plant or a branch. It increases the length of the stem. And the axillary bud is a lateral bud, and you can see it's at the base of that leaf, and it can be vegetative or reproductive. There are numerous modified stems. This is stolons, and this is a strawberry. Most people are familiar with this, but these are stems that grow along the ground and produce massive stems, and they root in place. This happens with red twig dogwood and ajuga, which is on our broadleaf evergreen list. Here's an onion, which is a bulb, and the stem is actually the base of this bulb, and the upper portion is the leaves. And tubers, of course, these are potatoes, and where the eyes are, those are your nodes, and you can see leaves are coming out of the nodes. And here is a rhizome from an iris, and the striped portions on this are the nodes. So here's a woody plant stem, and just to go over some of the terms you see here, lateral and terminal buds are protected by bud scales. That helps the buds survive harsh climate changes. And then when the bud opens in the spring, the scales fall off and leave the bud scale scar. Leaf scars are the remains of a leaf after it's fallen off the tree, and it's just below the lateral bud. And then lenticels are small spots on the stem that allow the stem to exchange gases such as oxygen and carbon dioxide. So those bud scale scars are your indicator of each year's growth. So on top we've got the most recent year. We've got our terminal bud up there with the bud scales. At the base is the bud scale scar from last year, and then below that you've got 2 years old and 3 years old. And the thing to think about is sometimes, depending on what our climate is doing, if we're having a lot of rain, these stems might be longer. They may be shorter in drier seasons. Many plants have bud scales that protect the dormant buds through the winter. So the upper portion buds here are vegetative buds, and these roundish buds are flower buds. I mentioned lenticels. These are small gas exchange openings in the cork of a woody stem. This is a flowering cherry, and with flowering cherries, they're very prominent. Very helpful when you're trying to identify whether or not it's a flowering cherry, because the plums can look very similar, but they don't tend to have these very prominent lenticels. So dormant buds are latent lateral buds, which are inactive at the nodes, and then adventitious buds that are found in unexpected areas like the roots and the trunk. And these are water sprouts and suckers. So the apical buds in a tree structure produce auxins, that's a hormone, that are actively translocated down the shoot. And if the growing tip's still there, the auxins flow and these lateral buds remain dormant. However, if you remove the growing point, the auxin production is interrupted, and that will cause the latent buds to bud out. Water sprouts are usually upright, developing from dormant buds on the trunk or the large branches of the tree. And in many cases, it's because you've over pruned a tree, or it could be a large amount of stress. And suckers are similar to water sprouts, it's just that they originate from the roots or the trunk below the graft union. Okay, so leaves are a modified stem. They consist of a blade and a petiole, and the purpose for them is to intercept light and CO2 to be used in photosynthesis. So here we've got the blade. The petiole is the stem between the branch and the leaf. The stipules are two small flaps that grow at the base of the petiole on some plants. Some stipules, such as those in the willows and certain cherry trees, actually produce substances that prevent insects from attacking the leaf as it's developing. The other thing is that you're going to have an axillary bud at the base of the leaf, and I'll show that to you in a second here. Okay, so we've got our midrib, the leaf margin. This is entire. Entire means it doesn't have any teeth, and it's not lobed. The leaf blade, we've got pinnate venation. I'll talk about what that is in a minute. And the leaf stalk, which is the petiole, and the axillary bud. That's how you know that whole portion is a leaf. The picture in the middle has what's called a sessile leaf, which means it doesn't have a petiole. And then on the right here, we've got a compound leaf, and the way you know that it's a compound leaf is the axillary bud is the base, at the base of this entire group of leaflets. If these were individual leaves, there would be axillary buds at the base of each of these leaflets. So here again, here's the compound leaf, and note that there is a bud at the base of the petiole, but not at the base of the leaflets. So we have simple and compound leaves. And simple leaves, there's a lot of different types. Here we have a pinnately veined leaf, which means we've got one main vein going down the leaf and then smaller veins coming off of that. And then there's palmately veined, and so all the veins come out of the base of the leaf. These are dicotyledons. And then we have parallel veins, and you're going to find that on monocotyledons. We also have palmately compound and pinnately compound. So you've got leaflets that arise from a common point, just like those veins did. And then pinnately compound is when each leaflet is coming off of the stem, which is a rachis. And then you have bipinnately compound, and you can see this is one big leaf that has divided up into many pinnately compound leaflets. And here's just some margins you might see. So we've got dentate, we've got entire, you can see there's no margin. Serrate, lobed would be for oaks. And then there's a lot of different shapes, and when you take ID, we'll be talking a lot about these things. Here's our margins. We actually have a rhododendron that has a ciliate margin on our list this fall. Sometimes they're undulate, so widely wavy. And common leaf arrangements are alternate, which means the leaves come out of different places on the stem. Then we've got opposite, where they're coming they're at the same point coming out on opposite sides of the stem. Sometimes it's called paired and opposite. And then they're whorled, and there's some plants that are where they all the leaves come out from the same point. The thing to understand when you're taking plant identification is most of your plants are going to be alternate. So if you have a plant that has opposite leaves, chances are it's a very narrow choice of plants. So you want to review those when you're taking plant identification. Modified leaves include bracts. These are flowers with inconspicuous flowers. You can see at the base here, and if you've taken any classes from me, or you will, you'll understand that poinsettias are my least favorite plant on the face of the earth. But anyway, they're a great example of bracts. So these are just leaves. They're just colored leaves. So the flowers are in the center. And if you're going to buy a poinsettia at the Christmas time, you want to make sure that these flowers are tight in the middle. If they're wide open, chances are it's not going to last very long. Other modified leaves include spines, and they reduce leaf surfaces, and that helps reduce water loss and may deter predators. And then we've got reproductive leaves. These are modified leaves. This is a devil's backbone, and what it has is tiny but complete plantlets along its margin. You can actually see the roots